Picture this. It's a normal Tuesday. Nothing dramatic. You wake up, check your phone, and there it is, your bank app notification, your credit card balance, minimum payment due $47. You pause for a second, not because you're worried, but because it feels manageable. $47? That's nothing. You could pay more, sure, but why would you? The system is literally telling you what you need to pay. So you tap it. Paid. Done. Responsible. And for a moment, you feel in control. But then the month rolls forward. Groceries go on the card. Gas goes on the card. Maybe a dinner, maybe something small from Amazon. Nothing crazy, just life. And suddenly, that balance, it didn't go down. It grew. And that's the part that feels confusing. Because you're not reckless, you're not irresponsible, you're doing what you're supposed to do. So why does it feel like you're stuck? Hi, welcome to the channel. Today we reveal the hidden mechanics why banks want you in debt. If you're someone who wants to understand how money really works, make sure to subscribe and like this video if it helps you. Look, here's the thing most people believe. Banks make money by helping you save. They keep your money safe, they give you interest, they help you build a future. And yeah, that's partially true. But this is what most people don't realize. Banks don't make the real money from your savings, they make it from your debt. Let's break that down. When you put money into a savings account, the bank might give you, what, 0.5%? Maybe 1% if you're lucky. But when you carry a balance on a credit card, they charge you 18%, 22%, sometimes even more. Here's where it gets really interesting. Imagine you have $1,000 sitting in a savings account earning 1%. That's $10 a year. Now imagine you have $1,000 in credit card debt at 20%. That's $200 a year in interest. Same amount of money, completely different direction. One pays you $10, the other costs you $200. That gap? That's the business model. This is what most people don't realize. Banks don't just benefit when you borrow, they benefit when you stay in debt. Because paying off your balance completely, that's the worst-case scenario for them. You stop generating interest, you become less profitable. Now you might be thinking, okay, but banks aren't trying to trap me. And you're right, they're not sitting in a room plotting against you. It's not personal, it's structural. The system is designed to reward behavior that generates interest. And here's how that shows up in your daily life. Minimum payments, rewards programs, credit limits that increase over time. Let's talk about minimum payments, because this is where the psychology kicks in. That $47 you paid earlier, it wasn't designed to get you out of debt. It was designed to keep you in it comfortably, because when the payment feels small, you don't feel urgency, you feel relief. And that relief keeps you engaged in the system. Let's run the math. Say you have $5,000 in balance at 20% interest. If you only make minimum payments, around 2% of the balance, it could take you over 20 years to pay it off. 20 years! And in that time, you might pay more in interest alone than the original debt. Let that sink in. Here's where it gets really interesting. The system doesn't pressure you. It doesn't scare you. It soothes you. It gives you just enough breathing room to stay comfortable, but not enough momentum to escape. And that's why so many people stay stuck, not because they're bad with money, but because they're operating inside a system that rewards slow repayment. Now let's talk about rewards programs. Cashback, points, travel miles. They feel like benefits, and to be fair, they can be, but they also change your behavior. You start thinking, if I spend more, I earn more. So you swipe a little easier. You justify purchases. You chase rewards. But here's the truth. A 2% cashback reward doesn't mean much if you're paying 20% interest. You're gaining pennies while losing dollars. And the system counts on you focusing on the reward instead of the cost. Now let's go one level deeper, because this isn't just about math, it's about psychology. When you borrow money, you're borrowing from your future, but your brain doesn't process it that way. It feels like free money, it feels like access, it feels like opportunity. And that's powerful, because it disconnects the action from the consequence. You get the benefit now and the cost later. That delay, that's where the trap lives, because by the time the cost shows up, the decision's already made, over and over again. Now you might be thinking, okay, so what's the alternative? Never use credit? No, that's not the point. Credit is a tool, a powerful one. But like any tool, it depends on how you use it. This is what most people don't realize. Wealthy people use debt differently. They use it to acquire assets, things that generate income, not liabilities that drain it. If someone takes on debt to buy a rental property that produces cash flow, that's strategic. If someone takes on debt for depreciating items, things that lose value, that's consumption. Same concept, different outcome. So the real question isn't, is debt good or bad? It's, what is this debt doing for me? Is it building something, or is it costing me something? Now let's bring this back to your daily decisions. Every time you swipe your card, you're making a small agreement with the system. You're choosing convenience now in exchange for obligation later. And most of the time that feels harmless. But those small decisions add up. They compound. Not just financially, but behaviorally. You get used to borrowing, used to carrying balances, used to living slightly ahead of your income. And that becomes your normal. So how do you break that cycle? First, shift your mindset. Stop seeing the minimum payment as the goal. Start seeing it as the bare minimum to stay stuck. Second, focus on eliminating high-interest debt aggressively, not slowly, not comfortably, but intentionally, because every dollar of interest you avoid is a guaranteed return. Third, use credit with rules. If you can't pay it off in full at the end of the month, question the purchase. Force awareness back into the process. And finally, understand the system you're in, because once you understand it, you stop playing by default. You start playing strategically. Because in the end, banks don't need you to fail. They just need you to be consistent, consistently borrowing, consistently paying interest, consistently engaged. But the moment you flip that script, the moment you start using the system instead of being used by it, everything changes. So the next time you see that minimum payment, pause, not to feel guilty, but to think, to ask yourself what that number really represents, because once you see it clearly, you stop drifting and you start deciding. And that's where control begins.